We are 80 samurai against an army, fighting to slow the invasion. Today, I die for my people. There must be thousands of them.
We will face death and defend our home. Tradition, courage, honor. They are what make us. We are the warriors of Tsushima. We are samurai!
In Ghost of Tsushima, we are introduced to Jin Sakai and his uncle Lord Shimura as they prepare to face a Mongol invasion which has landed on their shores. With storytelling, whether it is visual, oral, or written, the job of the storyteller is more than to entertain and excite the audience. Our goal is to give them a reason to care about the story and its characters. Going into this story, we as viewers are given some simple facts within the first 2 minutes. What are our heroes trying to do? Why are they trying to do it? What are their motivations for doing so? Jin Sakai is one of 80 samurai who has come not to defeat the Mongol invasion, but simply to slow it down. Their deaths are imminent, as Jin states, literally and metaphorically, "Today I die for my people." We as viewers feel the weight of the attack, and more importantly, for the sake of the story, we empathize with every man on this hillside, especially Jin. Additionally, Ghost of Tsushima gives us a supporting character who also functions very much as a symbol. Lord Shimura states the values of the samurai: tradition, courage, honor, and we understand him to be the embodiment of what it means to be samurai. He is, in many ways, the soul of this story. We respect who he is, we admire his code, his bravery, and his sacrifice. While we may not know much about who these characters are, we know what they believe, and we know that they will bravely die for this belief. As a storyteller, you do not need to postpone action to get an emotional investment out of your audience. You do not need to flesh out a deep and complicated external want and internal need during the first 2 minutes. But you do need to give your hero a clear goal that your audience can get behind and resonate with, even if that goal is self-sacrifice in an unwinnable battle charge. Because here, while it seems like such a simple scene, the storytellers are setting the foundation for Jin Sakai's future want, need, and dilemma. It is in the introduction of the villain that we, as audience members, understand that this story's struggle is more than simply physical, but spiritual.
I am Khotan, cousin of Kublai, grandson of Genghis. Brother, you are a warrior. I can see that. You trained your whole life for this. And you have won battles that lesser men have called unwinnable, yes? But while you were sharpening your sword, do you know how I prepared for today? I learned. I know your language, your traditions, your beliefs, which villages to tame and which to burn. So I'll ask you once again, samurai, do you surrender?
While this is predominantly an analysis of Sakai, what we are shown in this interaction between Lord Shimura and Khotan is, in many ways, preparing us for the inner turmoil in Jin Sakai. While the samurai and their methods have been successful in the past, or as Shimura puts it, tradition, Kotan explains that he has learned. He has come to understand the tactics of the samurai and knows their strengths and weaknesses. He is an enemy whom, to overcome, the samurai will have to change and break from tradition, break from who they are.
I am Jin Sakai, nephew to the great Lord Shimura. And I am no coward!
Your enemy is no match for you. But you still lack control.
I was practicing.
With your father's weapon? The sword of Clan Sakai has saved lives and ended wars. Who did this to you?
No one.
I will teach you to defend yourself.
I know how to fight.
To master your blade, you must first control your emotions.
I can do that, Uncle.
Show me. Before we eat, I have one last question. For generations, our families have lived by a code. Tell me the virtues that guide us.
Loyalty to our Lord. Control over our emotions. And
You know this.
honor. To fight bravely and uphold the legacy of Clan Sakai.
Those are your father's words. What does honor mean to you?
I guess... protecting people. The ones who can't fight for themselves.
You have a good heart. But first, we must show everyone that we serve our Lord with courage, integrity, and self-control.
You say that like it's easy.
It's never easy, Jin. I struggle with it every day. But we must set an example for our people by remaining true to our code and to ourselves. That is the meaning of honor.
During the early phases of the storytellers give us a brief glimpse into Jin's past. We understand that he is a samurai, that his identity is based on this code. But what that code means to him is what differentiates Jin from his uncle, his father, and his family legacy. Honor to fight bravely is a virtue of the samurai, and it is also specifically what his uncle questions Jin on. What does honor mean to you? To which Jin replies, protecting people. As storytellers, we always want a character's foundational beliefs to remain consistent. For Jin Sakai, we are shown that, even as a child, his definition of honor was to defend those who could not defend themselves. For Ghost of Tsushima in particular, why this is so important, and why it is crucial to establish this characteristic early, is because it prepares the audience for the internal conflict Jin will confront when the code of the samurai compromises his personal code. However, while an internal conflict between a code of tradition and one's own beliefs will help enhance the complexity of your main character, it is not enough to make an audience root for your main character, and it is not enough to force your character to act. What we as storytellers want to utilize, and what audience members want to experience, is a hero who has a deep and believable conviction for why they take action.
I failed. Again.
Father.
Jin.
After understanding what motivates Jin to act as he does, we can better understand him as a character, what drives him, what he is running from, and how he has formed his inner code. Jin not only has a present-day want for saving his uncle and the island, but he also has a past to run away from. From a storytelling perspective, we are giving our character plenty of incentive to move forward and be proactive, and we are also giving our audience a reason to sympathize with our hero. Jin has a reason for wanting to protect those who cannot protect themselves. He has his own fears of dishonor and cowardice from allowing his father to die because of an inability to act. His reasons for doing whatever it takes to protect his uncle and his island are adequate for the character change that he will undergo, and these reasons deepen our investment in his success. It is this character wound, in the physical loss of his father and the mental pain of being the cause of his father's death, which also enhances the relationship between Sakai and Lord Shimura.
I couldn't save him. I was a coward.
Jin, you are a samurai.
He died because of me.
Your father fell in battle saving his only son. His reward is a warrior's death. Now you will carry on his legacy. Your father's spirit resides within this blade. He is always with you. Tomorrow, you will come to my fortress as my ward. Today, say goodbye to your father.
This small scene delivers so much in terms of enriching the characters, their connections, their internal struggles, and the symbolism of Jin's family sword. We see that Jin blames himself for his father's death, and believes himself to be a coward. It is because of his uncle's love for him, because Shimura reminds him that he is not a coward, but a samurai, that Jin is at least able to carry the burden of his father's death. That burden, that constant reminder of his failure, is symbolized in his sword, the very sword he now uses to defend those who cannot defend themselves, the very sword he will use to break away from the samurai code. Keep in mind that while this scene is rich and layered, it is also fairly simple. As storytellers, when we are told to include subtext in dialogue, or to have a scene accomplish multiple things at once, that does not mean it needs to be long or complicated. What we as both storytellers and audience members want is for there to be a rewarding emotional richness in character interactions, in scenes, and in symbols. Jin is not simply close with his uncle, and he is not close with his uncle just because his father died. The two men are bound together by more than a familial relationship, but by a common loss, a common burden, a common struggle to be strong for their people, especially in times of sorrow. And this is all said, shown, or symbolized in a clean minute and a half. We understand that the men are connected as father and son, as well as brothers driven by a greater purpose. And it is because of this higher purpose that Jin's breaking of the code is so devastating to both him and Shimura.
look him in the eye. Teach him that samurai never acts out of anger or fear. And take his life with honor. When we fight, we face our enemy head-on. And when we take their life, we look them in the eye with courage and respect. This is what makes us samurai. Only cowards strike from the shadows.
Here, with this act, is where Jin Sakai begins his character arc. One of the interesting things about Ghost of Tsushima is the way in which they set up Jin's external want to save his people and internal need to abide by his code in opposition. This takes us back to Khotan Khan being an excellent villain for Jin's character arc. Because the Mongols know how samurai fight, they can out-strategize them. To defeat the Mongols, Jin must bend his code, or they will die by it. It is a lose-lose pairing of outcomes, and it proposes the story's overarching question. Is it better to die with your honor and moral code intact, or is it better to bend this code to save others and yourself? The stage is now set for Jin Sakai's story, for his character dilemma, and for his change. The storytellers have given enough details about Jin, his beliefs, and his code in order for us to understand his predicament. We are not simply watching one samurai face an invasion on his own. We are watching a man sacrifice who he is to protect everything and everyone. This is, in my opinion, why the storytellers include Jin's line at Komada, "Today I die for my people." Jin's identity is bound to the samurai code. He exists as a samurai. In breaking his code to defend his people, Jin is no longer a samurai. The old Jin dies at Komada Beach, and the Ghost of Tsushima is born. What happens next is a question for us as audience members. What happens when a man compromises the code that defines him? How far can a good man stray from his moral path before he becomes the monster he fights? And how can the desire to protect others corrupt one's self?
I taught a monster how to hunt.
They heard Tomoe giving orders to the Mongols. She mentioned Hiyoshi Springs.
She's just getting started. Sakai, the way you fight, it's not your uncle's way, and it's not mine.
We've never faced an enemy like this. I do what I must to defeat them.
A samurai is a guardian, not a killer who darts around like a thief.
You didn't see Komoda.
I've seen enough. I know it was brutal, but I won't train another monster.
Ghost of Tsushima utilizes a technique known as character foils to explore the paths Jin Sakai's character may take on his mission to protect his people. The storytellers effectively offer complementary storylines which intersect with Jin Sakai's. These storylines and characters provide the audience with a comparison, a means of showing how Jin's story might go awry should he stray too far from the narrow path of the samurai. Each story serves to deepen our understanding of Jin, not simply by telling us where his path may lead, but by giving us characters to care about, while also showing us Jin's response to these parallel paths.
I demand an answer.
She attacked me. Not bandits. Tomoe.
Why?
She has no idea what it means to be samurai.
You drove her to the Mongols.
Do not judge me.
Do not lie to me.
I can't let Tomoe teach my way of the bow to the enemy.
Then we will stop her.
This is my fight. I don't need your weapon.
No, you need me. Victory is won by warriors, not weapons.
Lord Shimura raised you well.
When recruiting warriors to aid in his cause, Sakai comes to recruit Sensei Ishikawa, a master archer who has been attacked by his protege, Tomoe. From a storyteller's perspective, the relationship between Ishikawa, Tomoe, and the Mongols represents an alternate path for our hero. Much like Lord Shimura views Sakai as his own son, Ishikawa viewed Tomoe as a daughter, training her in his ways, never believing someone he loved so closely could use his skill for cruelty. In a similar fashion, Sakai has superb skill as a samurai and uses it in an unorthodox fashion. While we as audience members can understand Jin's motives for bending his code, Ishikawa is acutely aware of how this compromise in morals may lead Jin down a dark path. With respect to Tomoe, we are given a minor antagonist, a character who represents a symptomatic evil of the Mongol invasion. Tomoe undoubtedly saw what the Mongols would do to her if she could not prove herself valuable. In an act of self-preservation, she becomes a monster, killing innocents and teaching the Mongols the way of the bow so that she might live. This character choice is, in many ways, a perversion to Jin Sakai's compromise of his ethics in order for his people to survive. While we can sympathize with Jin's motives more readily than we can sympathize with Tomoe's, we can hear both characters stating, "I did what I had to." Tomoe's story is a reflection and warning to us as audience members, showing us how cruel actions can be rationalized by brutal circumstances. The moral line in the sand is unclear, and the consequences are amplified by war. What we as storytellers want to consider is, how close can our hero get to this line without crossing it? Can Jin become the same as the monster that he hunts, so long as the ends justify the means?
Why have you come?
The Mongol Khan has captured Lord Shimura. If your clan joins me, we can save my uncle and avenge your men.
Clan Adachi is dead. Massacred by our own people.
Traitors! Why would they kill those who swore to protect them?
I intend to find out.
I'm coming with you.
No, do not set aside your concerns for mine.
The family of samurai are my concern. I know what it means to be the last of one's clan. You destroyed Clan Adachi.
I was only a messenger.
For who?
Knowledge does not end suffering.
You know nothing of suffering.
Masako.
I buried my family, one by one. It took days. But I'm going to leave you for the wolves.
We need him alive to tell us who he serves.
Our world has changed. Men of vision must rise to face it. And those in the way must be removed.
They were children!
Masako!
With Lady Masako's story, we are given another possibility for Jin's journey. When considering his want to drive the Mongols from the island, we also understand a deep desire for revenge. Sakai has undoubtedly been wronged by having his home attacked, his people murdered, and his last surviving family member held hostage by Khotan Khan. But when we consider the samurai code, tradition, honor, courage. There is no mention of justice versus revenge. When Jin finds Lady Masako, she has just finished burying her daughters and grandchildren, those family members that were not killed at Komoda Beach. No funerals have been held, no ceremony has been postponed until the murderers are brought to justice. For Lady Masako, life cannot continue until she has exacted her revenge. She must pursue this bloodlust which, in her rage, causes her to act erratically and recklessly. She is calloused towards those who have not even wronged her, often using people as tools without regard for their well-being, and also showing little concern for her own health as she fails to eat or sleep. Masako's story is a tragic one, as is Jin's. What her character represents to the audience are the means by which a good person can be driven to horrible acts by the need for revenge. It is a warning for Jin Sakai's character, a path which he may take in which his pursuit for revenge is placed above his code for honor. And even so, should Jin rise above the need for revenge and take action against the Mongols for no other reason than to defend his people, the possibility of straying from the righteous path is present.
Jin Sakai.
Ryuzo, you look like a scarecrow.
You've looked better too. Can I have my hat?
You're a mercenary now.
Professional warrior.
Maybe you can help me. I'm looking for your leader.
He died on Komoda Beach.
You were there too.
I lost a lot of friends.
We all did. And we can avenge them if we work together. Help me save Lord Shimura.
He's alive. The Straw Hats are hurt. Starving. I can't ask them to risk their lives for one man.
Even if you can name your price? Once we free our home, Lord Shimura will pay you. Anything you want.
My men might be interested.
Your men?
I look out for them. Someone has to.
When introduced to Ryuzo, we are shown an alternate life for Jin Sakai. Had Jin not been born into a clan, he may have ended up as Ryuzo, working as a mercenary. Like Jin, we respect Ryuzo. He is an able warrior, can take care of himself, and, most importantly, he takes responsibility for taking care of his men. Ryuzo prioritizes his men, keeping them safe and keeping them fed. There is a mixture of honor and pride in the young man, wanting not only for his men to be taken care of, but to be the man who takes care of them. Naturally, as a leader of the Straw Hats, Ryuzo has a duty to take care of his small militia. At the same time, this duty consumes him. He defines himself by his ability to provide, and even resents Jin for proposing the opportunity for acquiring food to his men. As a foil to Jin, what the storytellers have effectively done is set the foundation for Sakai's development as the game moves forward. When Jin becomes a symbol of hope for the people of Tsushima, he carries all the responsibility of that position, and also develops the ego of that role. It is an excess of courage which drives both men, and, as we see from their progress, the need to defend one's own can be used as a weapon.
You're not gonna believe this. It doesn't make any sense.
What doesn't?
My men said the Mongols didn't hurt them.
They fed them. Good food, too. No wonder they were singing last night.
Just be grateful they're safe.
Why in all the hells would the Mongols feed them?
Maybe they expected something in return.
Thank you, Jin. My men. They're everything.
It is this need, this love for one's own, and the need to protect them, which corrupts the good within Ryuzo, and can easily threaten the good within Jin. What the storytellers of Ghost of Tsushima have effectively established up to this point in their character's journey are as follows. Our hero has an external want to defend his island and save his uncle, which can be summed up as a desire to defeat the Mongols. He has an internal need to define his own path, whether it be as a samurai or something else. At this stage of the story, Jin also has an underlying need to forgive himself for his father's death, which goes hand in hand with his need to make his own path independent of his past, of his tradition. The storytellers then give us possible outcomes for Jin's journey, warnings in the form of foil characters. Sensei Ishimura and Tomoe warn of both an overbearing father and a vicious student using the ways of the samurai to survive, at whatever cost. Lady Masako's story warns the viewers how revenge above all else can rob Jin of his own desire to live. And finally, Ryuzo demonstrates how responsibility, no matter the sacrifice, can corrupt one's good intentions. Not only do we see these warnings demonstrated in our foil characters, but we also catch glimpses of these moments in Jin Sakai. We have not seen him fully immersed in these situational foils himself, not yet, but the storytellers do give us small moments where Jin shows the potential to go down these paths himself. As storytellers, this is the artful way of showing character change. Incremental changes, hints at potential weaknesses, small warning acts, let our audience know that there is something more at stake here for Jin Sakai than beating the Mongols. Jin must defeat the invaders while also preserving his good heart. In fighting monsters, we must ensure that we ourselves do not become the monsters. Sprinkling in tiny moments where Jin shows the potential to change for good or bad keeps the audience engaged, because we care what happens to him, not just physically, but spiritually, in his battle for the soul. And so, as the story moves forward into its next phase, the storytellers show the audience the two poles of possibility for Jin Sakai.
Together, we will break the Mongol spirit and bring Khotun Khan to his knees. We will win this war as samurai.
You promised food for my men. Earn it.
Let them in!
No! Open the gate! Open the gate! Open the gate! Open the gate!
In both cases, we see a great warrior subjected to the ideals and power of another man, a commander. Make no mistake, Khotan is correct when he states that there is little difference fundamentally between Lord Shimura and himself, and that they are both driven by legacy and a way of life. When presented with Shimura's plan to win back the island as samurai, we as audience members understand that he has noble ambitions and good intentions, but that the Mongols cannot be defeated using this code of honor and direct confrontation. Likewise, when we see Ryuzo, Jin's most prominent foil, falling to his knees beneath the weight of his actions, it's heartbreaking. Here is a man so desperate to be good for his men that he has become a monster in the process. Now, for both the storytellers and the audience members, we are left with a question. Where will Jin end up between these two extremes?
Jin, my message to the Shogun included an announcement. I wish to formally adopt you as my son.
Uncle.
Now free from Khotan's prison, Lord Shimura is once again a prevalent side character in Jin's ear, reminding him of his duty and honor as a samurai. As stated earlier, Shimura serves as both a character foil and as an embodiment of the samurai code. His presence, his opinion, which means so much to Jin, weigh on every decision from this part of the story onward. It raises the stakes for Jin. While Shimura is in prison, Jin can act in ways that go against the samurai code, and only suffer the consequences of his own shame and ridicule from those around him. This has been difficult for Jin already, as we see when he assassinates his first Mongol guard, but at least then he had the justification that it was all to save his uncle. Now that Shimura is free, not only does Jin lose this justification, but he also experiences his uncle's disappointment firsthand. This is amplified by Shimura's decision to formally adopt Jin as a son. If Jin accepts the samurai code without compromise, he can have something he has desired since his father's death. As storytellers, it is crucial to keep any character's wants and needs at odds with one another, because it increases tension. This is vital for your main characters, because tension drives the story forward, and it gives your audience the sense that there is always something to lose. There are consequences. That, for Jin to keep his uncle's love, he must die walking the path of a samurai, or, in order to survive and defeat the Mongols, Jin must renounce his uncle. By offering to adopt Jin, Shimura increases what is at stake on a personal level, and the conflict within Jin's character strengthens the story and enhances the experience for the audience, because now we need to be reminded as to what drives Jin the most. How does Jin define courage and honor?
Jin, help me.
Jin's character is complex, not in his motivations or setup, but in the layering of his character. At the main level, we know he wants two things: to defeat the Mongols and to maintain his relationship with his uncle. The irony is that these two desires oppose one another. If we go a layer deeper, we see that Jin's character, his decision-making apparatus, is dictated by his code for defending the defenseless. The storytellers pick an excellent time in the story for Jin to return home and retrieve his father's armor, because it allows for an opportunity to hammer home this character trait of Jin. No matter what the situation or circumstance, we as audience members can confidently know that Jin will always do whatever it takes to defend those who cannot defend themselves. As far as storytelling goes, always remind an audience how or why a character thinks and makes decisions. Consistency is key with character, and for audience members to fully understand why Jin does what he does from this point in the story and onward, it is important to remind them what that deeper layer of his character is. No matter the cost, Jin will defend the defenseless.
This is terrible.
My mother loved it. Used to drink it like water. She gets so mad when she ran out. Yelled at us. "Where's my tea?"
Sounds like a demanding woman.
She broke Taka's arm when he was 6. I took him away. Ran as far from her as we could get. We heard they found her a month later. Face down in the street.
You were brave to protect your brother. Sometimes, our only choice is to walk away from everything we know.
Before the attack on Yarikawa, the storytellers present Jin's character growth through Yuna's parallel story. In her childhood, Yuna needed to run away from her mother in order to protect herself and her brother Taka. The parallel is that Jin must also leave behind the life he knows as a samurai in order to defend what he cares about the most, the people of Tsushima. By using Yuna's story, the storytellers are implementing an allegory for Jin's character. While we as audience members understand that he needs to change in order to defend his home, we get another perspective as to why the change was necessary, and also what was at stake. Yuna and Taka lost their home and their mother to survive. Similarly, Jin will be losing all he has left, and his statement to her is an acknowledgement of the fact that Jin is aware of what he stands to lose in his choice. And it is by this chapter's end that we see Jin fully embody the symbol of the ghost. He is someone to unite behind and support. The way in which the scene is presented gives the impression that something substantial has changed in Jin, not so much in his morals or his code, but in his choice. This is the definitive scene along the trajectory for the Ghost of Tsushima, rather than Lord Sakai and the Path of the Samurai. As storytellers, make it clear that your hero has set a course towards a goal and that their tracks are deep set. At this stage in the story, we as audience members have not seen Jin's dedication to the role of the ghost, but we are certain past this point that this is his path and priority. What comes next in the story is even more important because there is now definitively more on the line, and the risk to Jin's spiritual self are amplified. Since Kotan cannot break Jin as a samurai, he must find a way to break the ghost.
This is Lord Sakai. He'll protect us.
I need you to trust me, Taka. I need your help. I'll try, my lord.
Taka is not so much a foil for Jin, as much as he is a representation of the average person. Not a warrior, not skilled in fighting, but a good person caught up in a war, trying to do his best to be strong and brave. He looks up to Jin as inspiration, for guidance, the way Shimura says the people look to the samurai for guidance. The relationship between Taka and his sister Yuna is also an embodiment of Jin's external struggle, one person doing all they can do to defend those they love. Much in the way Lord Shimura and Kotan embody the spiritual struggle within Jin, Taka and Yuna provide the audience with a smaller, more personal relationship with the defender and the defenseless. In a literal sense, why this relationship is vital for Jin's character has to do with Taka's development in the story. On one hand, Jin believes that Taka could be a warrior with the proper training, similar in fashion to the way he prompts the people of Yarikawa to be warriors. On the other hand, the responsibility to protect his people weighs heavily on Jin and Yuna. We fully understand this about Jin, and it is also what makes him dangerously similar to Ryuzo. They are both characters willing to go to extremes in order to protect their friends and family, and it is why the Khan is able to use Taka in attempting to break Jin's spirit.
Areg. Milk from my favorite horse. The final gift to me. She broke her egg yesterday, so I fed her to my men. We do what we must, Lord Sakai. That is why you and I are both survivors.
I am samurai.
No, you are more than that. You are the ghost. Convince your people to join me, and I will give them peace.
We will never serve you.
Your uncle said the same thing when I asked him to end this war.
He refused to be your slave.
I too have pride in family. And I know what it's like to live in their shadow. Why should we settle for scraps when we deserve to be legends?
He is a legend.
See? Your people will follow you. Join me and save them.
You want to divide and conquer. You did it to Ryuzo. Not us.
Oh. Your legend does not even care about you. If you kill him, you can go.
Run.
Stop! Till you're not.
Your friend died for you. Now I must find another, and you must choose again.
With this second blow, another instance in which Jin is unable to protect those that can't protect themselves, our hero is left with a mixture of rage and desperation. Up to this point, Jin has made incremental steps away from the samurai, killing from the shadows and using poison on a small scale to even the odds for Tsushima. One of the things that the storytellers for Ghost of Tsushima do excessively well is provide Jin with an incremental character arc, which is proportional to the events of the story. Jin only bends his code as much as necessary, assassinating targets to rescue his uncle, using Mongol weapons so that reinforcements can be called, and in many cases, Jin still shows mercy to Ryuzo for betraying them. He still tempers his actions with the lessons of the samurai. But after Taka's death, after Jin has failed to save one of his close friends, the man loses his patience and resorts to the most violent and dishonorable acts of the story.
Tell them you are Jin Shimura, loyal servant to the Shogun. My heir. My son. I am not your son. I am the ghost.
From a storytelling perspective, this is what would be considered a false victory. Despite killing the Mongols, Jin loses the one thing that he personally valued most, his relationship with his uncle. In both scenes, we are shown Jin renounce his want to remain a samurai and renounce his relationship with his uncle by breaking the samurai code. But what's more is that Lord Shimura, the embodiment of the samurai code, pressures Jin to shift the blame for his crimes to Yuna. Even Shimura, despite telling Jin to stick to the samurai code, is willing to disregard what is courageous and honorable so that he might preserve his desire to have Jin as his heir. The second scene shows how far both men are willing to go in order to preserve what they want. And it is painful. It is emotionally explosive because we see these two characters that we love despite their flaws at odds with one another because both are attempting to do the right thing in the best way possible. But in trying to solve their problems, they are forcing a rift between one another and impeding their efforts at defeating the Khan. This is what makes a story powerful. It is the emotional punch of the story. It is the tension between characters, and it is our investment as audience members which make the story great. And that is achieved with poetic irony in Ghost of Tsushima. We have had a general idea that this scene was coming from the first time Jin stabbed a Mongol in the back, and the way it is delivered gives us finality in Jin's character, not simply in the sense that we know he will always defend the defenseless, but that he will do so as the ghost, not as a samurai, not as Jin Shimura.
Yuna's not here. But these people... the Mongols must have rounded them up. Blood. But no wounds. Blood poured from his mouth. Smells like wolf's bane. The Mongols learned how to make my poison. Now they're using it against us.
After the death of Taka and Ryuzo, the loss of his relationship with his uncle, and the death of his horse, Jin still has not hit rock bottom. When entering the Qin sanctuary, after his escape from prison, Jin is shown the repercussions of his decision to poison the Mongols. Yes, his choice was well-intentioned, having saved his uncle's men, but the poison which he used to his advantage is now being used against him. Much in the way Ryuzo's willingness to defend his men is what led him to betray Jin. Jin's willingness to use the poison is what gave the Khan the tools to hurt Jin and the people of Tsushima further. Jin has now opened a Pandora's box so that if the Mongols manage to attack the mainland, far more people will die because of the poison. Again, what the storytellers do very well is give Jin's actions consequences. In trying to do what was right at the time, Jin has opened an opportunity for the Khan to make things far worse. Having escaped prison, Jin has somewhat severed the tie with his uncle, and has renounced the samurai code in order to protect Tsushima. He knows what must be done to achieve his external want while suppressing his internal need. Ironically, while Jin is often portrayed as being ruled by his emotions, he must now do the opposite in order to defeat the Khan. He must walk away from his uncle, his only family, everything he loves, for the greater good of his people.
Jin, why did you run away?
I wanted to catch an eel for your dinner.
Were you planning to catch it with your bare hands?
Ryuzo said you'd get rid of me as soon as you had a son of your own.
Jin, come here. Your friend is wrong. A path ahead may take a lifetime, but I will walk it with you. Always.
More than anything, Jin and Shimura had one another, and so it is now that, despite their disagreement and Jin's imprisonment, he is not able to renounce his relationship with his uncle, although he has walked away from the path which they plan to walk together for a lifetime. Jin has made the choice to walk away from the samurai code in order to do what he has always considered honorable and courageous, to defend those who cannot protect themselves. He is choosing his own version of the samurai code, but this scene, while it seems minor, reminds us of the decision's irony. Jin wants to defend the defenseless because he lost his father. Now, Jin is losing his father figure in order to defend the defenseless. This is both tragic and heroic. It is a beautiful character dilemma where the storytellers form Jin as a young man and give him strong beliefs and motivations, and then they pit those strong beliefs against a similar situation 12 years later, where the choice to save his father and protect the defenseless are opposed to one another. As storytellers, if you want to make a great story, you need to make a great character. And to make a great character, you need to make your audience feel. And to make your audience feel, you need them to resonate, understand, and sympathize with whatever gut-wrenching choice you give your hero. You cannot make it easy for your main character. Everything they want must stand in the way of everything they need and believe. Jin Sakai accomplishes this time and again in the slow degradation of the samurai code for his own code, the slow degradation of his relationship to his uncle, and the desperate attempt at keeping those smoldering embers of their relationship burning.
The Khan's fleet has gathered at Port Izumi. His ships are loaded with poison that will devastate the Shogun's army. But when the next storm arrives, I plan to kill the Khan and sink his fleet. I ask that you join me. I hope we can meet again. If not as father and son, then as warriors who have walked different paths.
The entirety of this sequence impresses upon us, the audience, that Jin is aware of the decision he is making. He accepts blame for his poison falling into Mongol hands. He accepts that his uncle may no longer view him as a son. He accepts that their paths are no longer shared, in spite of Shimura stating they would walk their paths together no matter the distance. The storytellers showing us something human about Jin endears him to the audience. Despite everything that has transpired, Jin still loves his uncle and still considers him an ally. And this is why, even with the defeat of Khotun Khan and the Mongols, the story's true conflict is not resolved. Despite all that Jin risked and sacrificed to achieve his goal, there are still consequences for his actions. Where most stories would have ended with the Khan's death, Ghost of Tsushima continues because the character's journey is not complete. The storytellers reaffirm that his motives were true, that he still has a good heart, that losing everything from his home to his legacy and land was worth it to Jin to protect his people. We have a rock-solid understanding of Jin Sakai's character, which drives us to sympathize with him even further. And it is because of that understanding that we as audience members are so emotionally torn by the final blow, not the loss of his home, but the loss of his uncle, of his family.
I will train you to become the strongest warrior Clan Sakai has ever known. I will raise you as my own son. Are you ready?
I am ready.
In a final profound memory, the storytellers take us back to the time when Jin had just lost his father, when he felt most alone in the world. They show us how his uncle's support carried him through that difficult time, and we learn of a simple promise, that Shimura will train Jin to be the strongest warrior Clan Sakai has ever known, if he is ready. Acknowledging in the present that he is ready shows us that Jin is about to fulfill that role. He is about to become the strongest warrior his family line has ever known, not because he protected his entire homeland from an invading army, but because he must confront the one person he loves more than anything in the world. He is strong, not just in skill and ability, but in his heart and his ability to do something as painful as fighting his uncle. It is for these reasons that when the time comes to choose between honoring and sparing his uncle, the decision is heartbreaking. Honor Shimura's wish for a warrior's death, or spare the man that is the very reason Jin fought so hard to defeat the Mongols. It is a beautiful choice and second character dilemma, because it takes the entire theme of Ghost of Tsushima and condenses it into 10 minutes. Shimura tells Jin that he has no honor, to which Jin replies, "And you are a slave to it." This is phenomenal storytelling and excellent character development because the weight, the emotional pain, and grief are palpable, and it physically hurts us as the audience to watch this scene unfold because we care so deeply about Jin and Shimura. While the game allows the player a choice, knowing Jin, having spent the story understanding what drives him, what haunts him, what code he follows,
I will train you.
I believe there is one ending which is true to his nature, and admittedly, I don't have the heart to watch the alternate ending.
I will raise you as my own son. Honor me with a warrior's death.
I have no honor. But I will not kill my family.